In this session, we'll see how to perform basic statistical analyses in JMP statistical discovery software from SAS. We'll talk about using the distribution platform to analyze one variable at a time, using fit y by x for analyses involving two variables, and using fit model for analyses involving more than two variables. We'll quickly revisit tools for summarizing and graphing data, and we'll introduce a tool for exploring text data, the Text Explorer. We'll use a JMP journal during this session. In this journal, I've added links to JMP sample datasets to make it easy to open and access files in JMP. These files can be found in the JMP sample data library under the Help menu. To get started, I'll open the fitness data. The fitness data is a fitness experiment involving the response oxy, or oxygen uptake, and several demographic variables, and information related to the experiment itself. To analyze data one variable at a time, we use Analyze Distribution. We'll start by looking at oxy, and we'll add additional variables. Note that the modeling types for the variables selected are different. Recall that the blue triangle indicates continuous modeling type, and the red bars indicate nominal modeling type, or categories. I've changed a preference to produce a horizontal layout with stacked output. By default, we see summary statistics, quantiles, a histogram, and a box plot for continuous data, and a bar chart and frequency distribution for categorical data. Under summary statistics, upper 95% mean, lower 95% mean is a 95% confidence interval for the mean. To ask for a different interval, we use the red triangle next to oxy, select confidence interval, and select a different confidence level. To perform a hypothesis test for a variable, click on the red triangle and select Test Mean. Note that as I hold my mouse over the menu option, Hover Help appears. From Test Mean, we can perform a one-sample t-test, a z-test if we know the true standard deviation, and also the corresponding non-parametric test. I'll enter a hypothesized value that's on the bounds of the confidence interval. If I enter a standard deviation, JMP will perform a z-test. And again, we can also perform a non-parametric test. JMP displays the hypothesized value, the calculated sample statistic, and under t-test, we see the test statistic and 3 p-values. In JMP, prob greater than indicates a p-value. In this case, prob greater than the absolute value of t is the p-value corresponding to the two-tailed test. Prob greater than t is the p-value corresponding to the alternative hypothesis that the mean is greater than 50, and prob less than t is the p-value corresponding to the alternative hypothesis that the mean is less than 50. The curve at the bottom gives us a graphical representation of this test. The curve is centered at the hypothesized value and represents the distribution of sample means we would observe under the null hypothesis. The red line is drawn at the observed sample mean, and the blue area in the tails represents the p-value. If you're new to hypothesis testing and p-values, under the red triangle is a p-value animation. The p-value animation allows us to explore the definition of the t-ratio. The t-ratio is simply a measure of the distance between the hypothesized value and the observed value in units of standard error. Clicking in the dragger and dragging the curve for the hypothesized value allows us to explore how the t-ratio and the p-value change as we increase or decrease the distance between these two values. For categorical data, we can perform a test for probabilities. Under the red triangle next to sex, we select the option Test Probabilities. Enter the hypothesized values, and for a two-tailed test, we select Done. JMP has conducted two tests, a likelihood ratio test and a Pearson chi-square test. For confidence intervals for proportions, under the red triangle, select confidence interval and the desired confidence level. For analyzing two variables at a time, we use Analyze Fit Y by X. Fit Y by X provides a number of analytic methods. The key in the corner provides information on the type of method that will be applied based on the variables we select for the analysis. The icon on the side corresponds to the modeling type for our response variable. The icons across the bottom correspond to the modeling type for our x's or factors. I'll select oxy as a y and sex as a factor. Oxy is continuous and sex is nominal. So the analysis that will be performed is one way. I'll also select age and weight as factors. JMP will conduct three separate analyses in the same window. When we click on the red triangle, we see the available options. And note that the options are different in one way than they are for bivariate. We're doing two different types of analyses here. Returning to one way, if I click on the red triangle, we can ask for quantiles and box plots, a pooled t-test, we can display the means and the standard deviations on the graph, and for the standard t-test, two-sample t-test, we select the t-test option. Again, JMP gives a graphical representation of the test, reports the p-value for the two-tailed test and for the two one-tailed tests, displays the difference, and displays the confidence interval for the difference. Additional analysis options include analysis of means. In an ANOVA situation, provides a number of options for comparing groups. All of the corresponding non-parametric methods are available. We can do tests for unequal variances and more. Under bivariate, we see options for fitting a line, fitting a polynomial, fitting special, which includes transformations. We'll start by asking for correlation. Correlation is available from the density ellipse option. I'll select density ellipse 0.95. This produces a graphical summary of the nature of the linear association between the two variables. I'll open the outline for bivariate normal ellipse to display the correlation. For any fitted model or statistic from bivariate, there's a new red triangle below the graph. This produces additional options. Here, I'll simply select Remove Fit. Let's fit a line for these data. Click on the red triangle. Fit Line is performing simple linear regression. The line is fit to the data. The fitted regression equation or formula for the line is provided, along with measures of the fits, a test for the significance of the model, and the coefficients or terms in the formula for the line are displayed under Estimates in the Parameter Estimates table. Additional options such as confidence intervals are available by right-clicking on the Parameter Estimates table, selecting Columns, and selecting the options. Now, what if we have a categorical response? I'll open the Titanic passengers data This is data on all of the passengers on the Titanic, and the key variable of interest is survived. I'll return to fit y by x and select survived as the y response. And in this case, the two options that are available are logistic regression and contingency table in chi-square. I'll select passenger class as an x, and note that this will produce a contingency analysis. I'll add sex, and I'll add age. For the combination of survived and age, JMP will perform logistic regression. So again, we have three separate analyses. For the analyses involving categorical predictors, JMP produces a mosaic plot and a contingency table. Recall that each analysis in JMP will have additional red triangles for other options that are available. The mosaic plot gives us a graphical representation of the analysis. Here we're looking at passenger class, first versus second versus third, against survived. The width of the bars gives us the relative frequency of each level compared to the other levels. So in this case, we have more third-class passengers than first-class passengers. The height of the bar for the legend gives us the breakdown of no's, did not survive, versus yes, did survive. And note as I hold my mouse on top of a bar, we get the relative frequency. The breakdown of the bars within each passenger class is the breakdown of no versus yes for the particular passenger class. So in this case, we can see that a lot more of the third-class passengers did not survive than the first-class passengers. Several additional analysis options are available under the red triangle. For the analysis of survived versus sex, we have a 2x2 table, and additional analysis options are available, including relative risk, odds ratios, and the two sample tests for proportions. The third analysis was logistic regression. In the logistic plot, we're looking at the probability of not surviving as age increases. The line represents how the probability changes as age increases. For help in interpreting this graph, I'll add markers and a legend. Right-click on the graph, select row legend, we'll use survived, and I'll add markers. To create this graph, JMP is plotting all of the values where survived equals yes above the line, and all of the values where survived equals no below the line. Each point is plotted at its corresponding age and is randomly scattered below the line in the correct position. Note that JMP is modeling the probability of not survived. To change the category that's modeled, we return to the fit y by x platform. I'll select survived as the response and age as the x, and note that we can change the target level, and now JMP will model the probability of surviving rather than not surviving. I return to the fitness data. To analyze more than two variables at a time, we use Analyze Fit Model. Fit Model allows us to produce a number of different types of models. I'll select Oxy as a response, sex, age, and weight. And to extend the selection, I'll hold the Control key. I'll select all of the predictors, click Add. So in this model, our response is Oxy, and we have several main effects. To add interactions, select the terms from the column list, and select macros factorial to degree. This will add interactions up to the degree that is specified. The default personality or analysis method is standard least squares. From here, we can also perform a stepwise model selection If we have repeated measures, we can run MANOVA. And we can also produce generalized linear models. The default output includes an actual by predicted plot, which gives us a feel for the overall significance of our model. The tighter the bands, the less unexplained variation or noise in the model. The blue line is plotted at our mean. The effect summary table allows us to quickly observe the p-values or significance of the terms in the model. Age and weight has a high p-value and can be removed. Note that the caret indicates that the term is used in an interaction that's in the model. So weight and sex are involved in interactions that are significant. I'll slowly reduce this model, which is equivalent to doing backwards stepwise selection. By default, JMP has produced a residual plot, studentized residuals, and additional options, and I'll minimize some of these. At the bottom, we see the prediction profiler, which is also an option under the red triangle next to profiler. And I'll expand this out. The prediction profiler allows us to see what happens to the predicted oxy and the confidence interval for the prediction as we change the values of each of the predictors. Note that as I click and drag the vertical red line from female to male, the prediction changes, and also the slope of the other predictors change. I'll change age to the low level and drag it to the high level, and note the change in the slope for sex. This is an indication of a significant interaction between sex and age. Prediction Profiler gives us an easy way to explore the terms in our model, our coefficients, and to also explore interactions. From here, we can also launch the simulator to simulate future values. Similar methods are available for categorical responses. We return to the Titanic data and we'll build a model to predict survived. Survived is our response, or Y, and I'll add model effects. Note that JMP will automatically code categorical predictors, and we can specify the target level for the response. I'll change the target level here to 1, or survived. Again, we'll add interactions by using macros factorial to degree. So I've added 3 two-way interactions. And since I selected a nominal response, the default personality is nominal logistic. And again, additional options are available. The analysis is analogous to what we saw with a continuous response. We see an effect summary table that allows us to slowly remove non-significant terms from the model, a whole model test which tells us about the significance of the model as a whole, fit details which indicate the performance of our model, parameter estimates table, these are the coefficients in our model, and note that we've built a nonlinear model. The parameter estimates represent the terms in the logistic model. And again, under the red triangle, the profiler is available. Here, the profiler allows us to explore how the probability of survive changes as we change each of the predictors. For first class female, who's 30 years old, the predicted survival rate is 0.964. And we see how the probability changes as we change passenger class, sex, and the other variables. Again, this is a very nice way of exploring interactions between our terms. Since we have a categorical response, additional options are available under the top red triangle, including odds ratios, the ROC curve, the lift curve, and a confusion matrix that allows us to understand errors in our classifications. In support of modeling, recall that there are a number of tools for summarizing and exploring data in JMP. I'll open the big class families data. So recall that the columns viewer allows us to quickly get a high-level view of the data in our data table. Tabulate under the Analyze menu allows us to produce numeric summaries of our data by dragging and dropping. The Graph Builder gives us a graphical platform for exploring variables 1, 2, and many variables at a time. And finally, the Text Explorer. The Text Explorer is a new tool for visualizing and exploring text data in JMP. In the big class families data set, the column Reported Illnesses is text data containing information reported directly from the students. To explore the key words and phrases contained in this column, we use the Text Explorer. Our column is Reported Illnesses. There are a variety of controls for the number of words and phrases. I'll select OK. And by default, we see a term list or a word list and a phrase list. For a visual summary of the words that are included in this document, I'll display the word cloud. And I'll change the format of the word cloud to centered and change the color. So we can see that the key words reported by the students are headaches, stomach, knee, and upset. In this video, we talked about using the distribution platform to analyze one variable at a time, fit y by x for analyses involving two variables, fit model for analyses involving more than two variables, and we also revisited tools for summarizing and graphing data and introduced the Text Explorer. This concludes Basic Statistics and Analysis with JMP Statistical Discovery Software from SAS.